Reverend Carol Willis is our senior minister. She has been with the Center of Enlightenment for over 14 years. And our senior minister for well over 2 years now. She is our teacher and leader. I am so sure that she will enlighten us with more words of wisdom regarding this beautiful Easter Sunday. So please help me welcome to the podium Reverend Carol Willis.
Thank you, Reverend Lisa. And as my Greek brother-in-law would say, Christos anesti, which is Christ is risen. And there is a reply that goes, I can't say it in Greek, but it's indeed Christ is risen. And Reverend David, the sweetie that he is, did some research for me last year and sent me it written in Greek and how to say it in Greek and the translation. So that was very kind. This morning, I'm going to talk about release and reimagine. It's a different way of thinking about Easter, but I think it's a good way to think about Easter. When Jesus began his ministry, he stated, "I have come not to destroy the law, but to fulfill it." This tells us that Jesus was already being inspired by Spirit to work and live divine law differently. That's evident when we compare the context of the Old Testament to the New Testament. Wrath and punishment became love and peace. It totally changed when Jesus came to earth. Jesus was releasing the old way and reimagining a new way for consciousness to live and evolve. This last week has been called Holy Week. Several major events make up Holy Week. And the first event is the triumphal entry of Jesus riding a donkey colt into Jerusalem. This event was prophesied by the prophet Zechariah in the Old Testament when he said, "Tell the daughter of Zion, behold, your king is coming to you, lowly and sitting on a donkey, a colt, the foal of a donkey." The story tells us as Jesus entered Jerusalem riding the colt, the people lined the street with their garments and with palm branches, shouting, "Hosanna," which means save now. The people were expecting an earthly Messiah to come and build an earthly kingdom in order to abolish the oppression of the Roman rule. However, that was not to be. And that was never the point of this whole experience. Jesus had been teaching that the true Messiah was the Christ, not him, Jesus. The events of Holy Week were signs that Jesus' ministry was coming to a close. And Jesus had been receiving intuitive messages about how events would unfold and that he would be given the opportunity to demonstrate as the greatest and last lesson in overcoming the last physical limitation that we call death. The metaphysics of Jesus riding the colt tell us we must enter Jerusalem in a consciousness of humility and meekness, which is riding the donkey colt, in order to be taught by Spirit. Jerusalem means habitation of peace, possession of peace, vision of peace. And in overcoming any challenge or obstacle in life, we first have to ground ourselves in peace. We will never overcome a challenge from a fear consciousness. Never. You're only going to get more of the same. So when we encounter things in life that are difficult, and probably everybody in this room has had at least one time in their life, and since we're a little older, most of us are a little older, we've had multiple circumstances. Jesus had his work ahead to get grounded in a peaceful state of mind and emotion in order to be successful in what was being asked of him to accomplish. After the Last Supper with the disciples, Jesus invited all 12 disciples to accompany him to the Garden of Gethsemane. He wanted to pray because he wasn't yet committed to what he was being asked to do. He invited 3 of the 12 to go with him into the inner gate because he wanted support. And he chose Peter, John, and James, and they stand for faith, love, and strength. That's a pretty powerful combination, faith, love, and strength. And I'd like to read the account to you because it's important that we hear this. Then Jesus came with them to a place called Gethsemane and said to the disciples, "Sit here while I go and pray over there." And he took with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, and he began to be sorrowful and deeply distressed. Then he said to them, "My soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even to death. Stay here and watch with me." He went a little farther and fell on his face and prayed, saying, "O my Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will." Then he came to the disciples and found them asleep and said to Peter, "What, could you not watch with me 1 hour? Watch and pray lest you enter into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak." He went away again a second time and prayed, saying, "O my Father, if this cup cannot pass away from me unless I drink it, your will be done." And he came and found them asleep again, for their eyes were heavy. So he left them, went away again, and prayed the 3rd time, saying the same words. Then he came to the disciples and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Behold, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is being betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us be going. See, he who betrays me is at hand." It took 3 times for him to pray his way into your will and not mine. We've all been there, looking at what we need to do, and yet we don't feel capable of doing it. We're concerned because we may not have all the answers. But God is always with us, and there is a way. We just have to stay out of fear. We have to let go of what is not serving us and reimagine what will. Reimagine what will. And then take your strength, your love, and your faith into that prayer time to support you. When Jesus left the garden and was arrested by the soldiers, he was committed in mind and heart on what was his to do. And he knew at this point, no matter what happened, there was no turning back. He had to go all the way. And we know that too in certain times. There's no turning back. We have to go all the way. Jesus was arrested, put on trial, and suffered a great deal of physical mistreatment, including being whipped and crucified. After Jesus died on the cross, He was buried in a tomb offered by his uncle, Joseph of Arimathea. And in 3 days, the 3 days in the tomb was a time of amazing transformation for Jesus. It's very much like the butterfly before it comes out of the cocoon. In that cocoon, there's a total transformation. The caterpillar actually turns into liquid form before it takes on the butterfly form. It has to let go of all those legs and that body that it used to have. And it's totally transformed into a new creature. So in the tomb, this is exactly what happened with Jesus. He was transformed into a new creature, a creature of light, a body of light. His physical body became a body of light, and angels ministered to him in the tomb, and a dead body rose from the dead, just as he said he would. The morning of the third day, the women, and it happened to be 3 Marys, came to the tomb to find the stone rolled away and the body was gone. They ran to town to tell the disciples the good news. He is risen. He's not here. Once again, Jesus is our teacher and way-shower of releasing the old that doesn't serve and reimagining a new outcome to begin anew. And this is one of the messages of Easter, to be reborn and begin anew. And we can do that over and over and over until we reach the Christ consciousness. Easter is a time for us to release and reimagine in order to move forward in our soul's evolution. We are here to learn, grow, and evolve into Christ consciousness. In closing, I would like to share part of an article that's in Unity's Lenten booklet. And their booklet this year is Release and Reimagine. This article is written by Reverend Maggie Alderman, who is the director of the Silent Unity Prayer Ministry at Unity Village in Missouri. And she writes, "The last act in Jesus' ministry was to teach us, through personal demonstration, what it truly means to be born anew. He did so by leaving us a blueprint, a pattern that reveals the cycle of evolution in consciousness and expression. Luke 9:22 says, "The Son of Man must undergo great suffering and be rejected by the elders, chief priests, and scribes, and be killed, and on the third day be raised." In other words, we are to expect our divine expression in human form to evolve and be raised up again and again. We will outgrow old ideas and institutions that once defined and served us. We will disrupt our own status quo in search of a deeper understanding of the truth of our origin. And when we do, it may feel as if we've lost everything, as if we are alone in the darkness of an isolated tomb. Scripture also records Jesus saying that we are capable of all the things he did and even greater things. This is the truth we celebrate on Resurrection Day, the power to overcome, to persevere, and to rise into new expression. Let the meaning of this morning settle into your own experience. Where in your life has something precious fallen away, leaving you to wonder what could possibly rise from the emptiness? Have you found yourself standing at the threshold of something new, not because you planned it, but because life rolled away a stone you weren't ready to move? Easter invites us to recognize that resurrection is not a one-time event. It is a divine pattern woven into the fabric of our becoming. This sacred morning reminds us that the tomb is never the end of the story. In our moments of greatest uncertainty and surrender, Spirit is already at work, calling us forth, unbinding what no longer serves, and guiding us into new life, perhaps in a way we have yet to imagine for ourselves. No matter how we look at Easter, no matter what your experience is in your celebration, there's something meaningful for everybody. I think Easter is one of the most powerful times of the year because it shows us you can start again. Let go of what isn't serving you, what's holding you back, what's binding you to something that is not working. Reimagine and choose something else. Let God inspire you as to what is your path in unfolding consciousness and moving into Christ consciousness. I want to thank you this morning for joining me. I do want to honor you and say the Christ in me honors the Christ in you. Have a wonderful Easter holiday, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Reverend Carol. That was very moving. And speaking of moving, I totally forgot the Declaration of Principles.